All right. Segment 2, Newspapers in the Electronic Age. Let me quote A Golden Age of Freedom. This is a book based on the Boyer lectures you gave in Australia. This is not available on Amazon. It's only available in Australia, by the way. But let me quote you. I have a simple and provocative proposition. Whinging about technology will get you nowhere. The more serious challenge is the complacency and condescension that festers at the heart of some newsrooms. Close quote. Would you care to name any of those newsrooms?
I think no, but I think most newsrooms are very concerned. Lots of jobs, lots of circulation, what's happening, lots of readership to the internet, and don't see really what they are. Newspapers seen as tangible, tactile things.
Right.
I think we've got to look at these organizations as news organizations, so that we don't mind how our words are read by the public, whether they're on the new iPad or the Kindle or other things that are coming, or on paper itself. But the words should be the same.
All right. Last summer, former CBS anchor Dan Rather delivered an address at the Aspen Institute, during which he actually became teary-eyed. Let me quote him. "It's time the government made an effort to ensure the survival of the free press. If we do nothing more than stand back and hope that innovation alone will solve this crisis, then our best trained journalists will lose their jobs." Close quote. The government is bailing out the banks. The government is bailing out the auto industries. Why shouldn't the government bail out the newspaper business?
I think he's talking rubbish, and very dangerous rubbish. We don't want government money. In that we want a free press. It's essential to the democracy that we have a free and, as far as possible, competitive press, or competitive information industry, if you will. You won't get that if you start having government dollars coming in.
Now, to quote again from the Golden Age of Freedom, readers want what they've always wanted, a source they can trust. In short, we are moving from newspapers to news brands. Explain what you mean by brand in that context.
Well, I think the Wall Street Journal, maybe the New York Times, maybe the London Times, maybe New York Post for that matter, are known for what they are and read and enjoyed for what they are. And I think they should keep that, and we've got to strengthen those brands very much, because as the old printed newspaper becomes less and the new electronic newspaper becomes much more, the cost of entry into competition is going to be a lot easier. Which is a great thing for the country. It's not so good for companies like mine. At least so we have to protect ourselves by getting better and better and being trusted just 100%.
So that I've got here today's New York Post and the Journal, and of course you can see in the physical object you've got a lot of ways of communicating the brand. Here's the New York Post, the shape of the paper, the feel of it says tabloid. The Journal, we've got a sort of a classy broadsheet and feel, the size of the headlines, the placement of the photos, and you can communicate the brand, the feel of the newspaper is literally in some ways the feel of the newspaper.
I love it. But you see, it so happens, New York Post, they say, oh, tabloid, well, that means in America. In fact, we are on exactly the same story, which is the economic crisis, as the Wall Street Journal is. And naturally, being a popular paper, we're on about the Super Bowl, which is 2 days away.
Right. But when you look at these, when you reduce this Post and the Journal to the iPad that Steve Jobs was showing you yesterday, same size screen, totally flat, pixels. In other words, isn't it going to be harder to communicate a feel for a paper, to communicate the brand over the internet?
No, I don't think so. We're working very hard at that. Some people may lose it. I think if it just comes out looking like a .com, if you will, you're in great danger of losing it.
So design is going to be essential.
Design
the
and
feel
presentation.
Of the story.
Yes, and we'll be, in there we're doing a lot of work now. We've got people working all over the world on it, and as other people have. And there'll be many experiments, and we'll see, how people really like to read their news.
Right. Let me. This business about the barriers to entry dropping. and the question about branding. I'll fumble as I put this to you, but I think there is an important question here. Say the Huffington Post.
Yes.
No fixed costs of printing presses or distribution, no department that knows how to purchase newsprint cheaply from they don't have to worry about any of that. Are they going to be able to develop a brand identity quickly enough? Will they be able to catch up with the Washington Post or indeed the Wall Street Journal? Or are brands, is it the nature of a brand that it takes decades to develop?
I think it takes decades, but not necessarily. I think that the Huffington Post is a non-profit organization virtually. They're going to have to charge for it.
Fighting words. All right.
No. Nobody makes money on the internet, very little, depending on display advertising.
All right.
The only people who make any real money are search and Google, and I think they're going to be under threat from Apple and other people. We're going to see some very interesting battles in Silicon Valley between the giants, but they'll be the two giants that will clash rather than Microsoft.
So new ventures, your judgment then is that new ventures such as the Huffington Post had better be on your radar because they do have a chance at it. If they're smart, they can develop brand identity.
Yeah, they can if they want to, yes. I mean, we're looking at, one of the business models we're looking at is offering on the isolate a bundle of newspapers, which would include some competitors.
I see.
And we're not averse to putting competitors with different views, all for one price, which might be $5-6 a week or something.
I see.
Give people a number of newspapers.
I see.